Chapter 13, A Race to the Finish. Those moments of joy in the Temple of Beauty were soon just a memory. With the Festival of Light only a few days away, Oron's and my job of preparing the records for the time capsules consumed us. Neither of us had time to sleep or eat. Since we were unable to prevent the launch and the continuation of the nuclear testing still existed, the pressure was on. There was still no word from the expeditions that had left for other parts of the world. The countries of Said, Oz, and Og were only known from limited trade ATLATIA had done. We really didn't know the people or how they would react to the influx of immigrants from ATLATIA. Also, many of the ATLATIan traders were not known for their fairness or honesty. This could reflect badly on our people who were attempting to find new homes in these foreign lands. Time would tell what would happen to them. Oren and I had few helpers of the Hall of Records. Those of the Children of the Law of One had taken at least one scribe per ship to record the events of the expedition, limiting our help at the temple. Since it was Oren's idea for each of these 3 countries to have a copy of our historical records, he was in charge of coordinating the information. I don't think he realized how big a job this would be. What was involved was basically the rewriting of the ATLATIan and the world history as we know it. Much of this information was still not transferred to the main computer and was still kept upon primitive parchment. These documents were not organized well, requiring even more time. When this information was finally compiled, it would have to be then entered into the computer 2 more times, so that there would be 3 separate computer memory disks for the 3 separate countries' burial grounds. It was late. Oren was sitting in front of his computer, his eyes closed with weariness. Just as they shut out the world, I walked up with another document. I tapped my friend on the shoulder. Oren, wake up and go home. Oren woke up with a start. I wasn't sleeping. I laughed. Please, it is late. Go home and get some sleep. There is not time. We have to finish this before the launch. You know that, he growled. I also know that if you don't get any sleep, the work may not be done with the accuracy that you intended. Oren thought for a moment. He finally gave in. Yes, you are right. I will go home for a couple of hours, but then I will come back. Almost instinctively, he picked up another document. Before he could open it, I put my hand on it. He looked at me and conceded. Okay. Boy, ever since you've been able to talk, you sure have been pushy. I laughed. Really? I thought I was pushy before. He stood up and laughed. I guess you were. My friend and I walked through the dimly lit temple. We were the only ones there. I could hear Oren's feet dragging across the marble as we walked. I looked over at him. His face was haggard from the intensity of the work and the stress to finish on time. I helped with the records, but he had more experience and could accomplish double what I did in the same amount of time. I wished I was capable of doing more. We reached the doorway that led to the temple grounds. It was late. The temples glowed with the lights of the city reflecting on their domes and spires. Suddenly fear gripped me. What will happen if the expedition doesn't return to the records before the launch? And if the disasters should begin before we are ready? They say that Mount Alta has been heard to be rumbling with activity. I looked down at my friend. I could see his brain digesting my question. After a moment he looked up at me. The only answer I have for your first question is that we must pray that they do. We must have faith that all will work out. As far as what if the disasters begin before we documented the records? Well, we should just have to take what we have done with us. The only sound we heard on our walk home was the sound of Oren's sandals dragging on the marble pathway. My questions had sent us both worrying about what might happen, not only to our world, but to us and those we loved. When we reached a fork in the middle of the temple grounds, with one path leading to my new home in the Temple of Sacrifice, and the other to Oren's house outside the grounds, we stopped. Even our parting to be with our spouses left us anxious. Our world was on the brink of disaster, and it could happen at any moment. I think we were both thinking the same thing, that we didn't know if we could see each other again. We gave each other a hug, and both with a slight wave of the hand bid each other farewell before walking into the direction of our homes. I felt it in the air, the buzz of pending disaster. When I felt fearful when I had my feathers, they would stand up. I still bore a couple of feathers that reflected my fear. Before I got home, I had to lay them down. I didn't want Miram to know. I had to appear strong and think strong. I couldn't let the fear in my thoughts or she would know. Since the beginning of our relationship, I felt that she had expected a lot from me. I wasn't going to let her down. Oren walked to his home quietly. It was silent and dark. He knew Etude would be in bed. He tried carefully to not make any noise as he walked into their bedroom. Etude lay in their bed. She appeared to be sleeping. Quietly he disrobed and opened the covers to get in. She turned over and whispered to him, "It is late. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." He snuggled next to her. "I couldn't sleep. I can't stop thinking about the launch. There has to be something I can do." She hesitated a moment before telling him. She looked over at him as he lay his head on his pillow. "That is why I've decided to go back to the lab to work tomorrow." He turned his head. With great concern, he said, "Do you think after what happened at the council meeting that Patelin will permit it?" "I have to try. Besides, I'm a very good scientist. He knows that." Oren put his arms around her. "Please, promise me that you will be careful." "I promise." They lay in each other's arms, holding on gently, both scared of the days to come. What she would do the next day was already running over and over in her mind. The tension at the lab was mounting as the day of the launch approached. Patelin, who was naturally very brisk with his fellow scientists, was particularly gruff this morning. He was yelling at Hallam as Etude walked in the door. "You idiot! Can't you do a simple task? Do I have to tell you every step of the procedure?" He noticed Etude watching him. With the same tone he addressed her. "What are you doing here?" Etude kept herself calm. "I work here." "Although you didn't approve of our work here?" Hallam eyed her suspiciously. Etude ignored them both and sat herself at one of the monitors. Patelin walked over to her. She continued to ignore him and began to work on the machine. "Who do you think you are coming in here? You can't work here. You've made your position perfectly clear." Etude continued working. Hallam tried to stop her. He grabbed her shoulder, telling her, "You heard him. You can't work here." Etude, undaunted by Hallam, shrugged him off and then turned to Patelin. "Look," she gestured to the monitor. "Isn't this the simple procedure you wanted this incompetent to perform?" Patelin looked at the screen. He smirked. "Yes, it was. Then it appears you need me. I have been working on the Onag Center from the inception, and it appears to me that you have nobody with the knowledge of it that I possess." Patelin thought for a moment. "It appears that way. However, I'm restricting you to only that project since you are so adamant against the launch." Etude was about to burst inside. She did it. "Very well," she said convincingly to Patelin. Hallam, who had been fuming throughout this conversation, took Patelin aside out of her hearing distance. "Are you crazy? This is a trick. She is a definite threat to our work." Patelin laughed. "The only trick will be on her. Now you and Amaziah keep an eye on her." As Patelin and Hallam talked, Etude's mind moved faster and faster. This was only the first step. She had to wait for the right moment and make her move. She had no intention of letting this launch happen, and she knew she could stop it. Hallam made sure that he never was far from the view of Etude or her monitor screen. He was like a hawk circling his prey. Etude pretended not to notice, but actually she could feel the hair on the back of her neck standing up. She wasn't ready to make her move, not just yet. When the day of work concluded, it was a relief for her to walk out the door. She could feel the eyes of Amaziah and Hallam walking her out the door. She took a deep breath and started for home. This was not going to be an easy task, but she vowed to herself that she would make the launch impossible. When I entered her residence, Miram was sitting in front of her crystal ball. Over her shoulder, I could see scenes of the earth shifting its massive layers on top of one another. The sight was frightening. I put my hand on her shoulder. "Is this the future?" Miram turned her face to me. Tears sat on her cheeks as she answered me. "No. It is happening now in other regions of ATLATIA." I had never seen her cry before. It tore up my heart, so did the scenes I saw in the crystal ball. I saw it next to her, removing her hands from the crystal, which disengaged from the transmission. "It has begun," she said. I felt her fear. I held her in my arms, trying to make her feel more secure. This is the first time I had ever seen Miram so vulnerable. She was always so strong, stronger than anyone I'd ever seen. But today she cried. "Please don't cry. I can't bear seeing you like this." "I'm not crying for myself. I feel Tara. I sense Tara's pain. She had been abused, her insides burned from the nuclear explosions and radiation that has remained after. Her outside is like a body covered with open sores and rubbed with acid. Even the air is choking her. She took my hands affectionately. I'd rather it be my pain. I could remedy that, but this, I'm afraid I have no remedy now. It is too late. We held each other in the quiet of the temple room with understanding and love. There were no words to express how we both felt as we held each other to one another. It was a reverence, as if someone we loved very much was dying. To us, someone was. Our planet, Terra. Oren was immersed in his work as he tui-toed hauled and walked into the Hall of Records. She walked over and stroked his hair. He looked up. What brings you here? He smiled. I knew I would find you here, and I wanted to tell you the news. He could see it in her face. Patelin took you back. What did I tell you? I'm a great scientist. He pulled her onto his knee and gave her a kiss. Yes, and you're also a very special woman. Tui-toed looked around. Where's Esser? He's gone to eat dinner with Miram. That sounds good. Come home and I'll make you something special to eat. No, I can't. I have much work to do and so little time. I simply cannot take time to go eat. I only asked Esser to go eat because he can be such a bear when he doesn't. They laughed. Is there something I can do? Yes. Go home and bring back something special to eat. I'm starving. She gave him a kiss. I understand. Perhaps I can help pull documents or something later. Yes, Esser can show you what to do. Now go. He tui-toed threw him a kiss and left. Oren stared after her. His mind was now concentrating on his work, but not on her. He was worried about her working with Patelin, now that she had exposed her real feelings. He was suspicious of why Patelin would let her come back so easily. He tui-toed was a great scientist, but he knew that Patelin would do anything to protect his projects. How could he protect her? His mind shifted. He mustn't waste any more time. He must go back to work. When I returned from dinner with Miram, Oren was grumbling and growling about Tui-toed's insistence to try to thwart the launch. Oren and I were busy at work when she arrived with Oren's dinner. I knew he was upset and fearful of Tui-toed working with Patelin. When she walked in, the scowl on Oren's face said it all. She looked at me, searching for help in the situation. I agreed with Oren. I continued my work, knowing there was going to be an argument. Without hesitation, Oren could not contain his anger any longer. You are not going back to work with Patelin. She dropped his food on the desk with an angry thud. For a moment she just froze, her mouth pinching into an angry frown. What did you say? She snapped. He rose so they were toe-to-toe. I could not let them see me watching, but I was curious how it was going to play out. Oren folded his arms in front of his body defiantly. You heard me. It is too dangerous. She stood her ground defiantly. He's accepted me back. This is a huge opportunity to stop the launch. Maybe, but it's too big a chance to get you killed. He is no fool. I'm sure you're being watched every moment, and the moment you try anything, bam. He slapped his hands together. I could see the tears streaming down to Tui-toed's face. She pleaded. I have to try, just like you having to try to save the records. I know it's dangerous. Do you think I want to die now that we found each other? With that, he took her in his arms. Softly he said, No, of course not. They held each other as if the world would end in that moment. Then Oren kissed her and said offhandedly, Okay, now what did you bring me for dinner? They never said another word about it. Tui-toed helped us pull documents, and I showed her what we were doing. I was amazed how fast she was inputting documents. She was much faster with her little nimble fingers than I was with my big fat ones. After hours of work, I made the suggestion for all of us to go home and get some sleep. Oren, hesitant as usual, finally consented to going home. Oren and Tui-toed walked hand in hand down the temple street in silence. No words were ever said about her job again. It was a path they both knew they were both on, a path that sent them in different directions despite their deep connection. Knowing that made them savor every moment they had together.